Picture this. It's minus 40 degrees outside. Your breath freezes before it even leaves your mouth. There's no heater, no blanket factory, no grocery store 2 minutes away, just you. A fire that might go out any second, and a world that is actively trying to kill you. Now here's the insane part. Humans didn't just survive this, we thrived in it for thousands of years. And one of the tricks we used to stay alive during the Ice Age is so strange, so clever, and honestly so brutal, that when you hear it, you're going to look at your own comfortable life completely differently. Stay till the end, because the last part of this story will completely change how you think about ancient humans, and maybe even about yourself. So let's set the scene. We're talking about the Ice Age. Not one single event, but a long, brutal stretch of time when huge parts of the planet were locked under ice. We're talking temperatures that modern humans, with all our jackets and heaters and hot coffee, would struggle to survive for even a single night. Now imagine you're born into that world. No choice, no warning. You just open your eyes one day, and the world outside is a frozen, howling nightmare. This was daily life. Not a disaster, daily life. So the first question is simple. How do you not freeze to death? And the answer starts with something you probably take for granted every single day. Fire. Today, you flip a switch and a room gets warm. Back then, fire was life itself. But keeping a fire alive through an Ice Age winter wasn't as simple as tossing on a log. Ancient humans had to hunt fuel down like it was food. Dry wood was rare, so they burned bones. Yes, bones. Animal bones, packed with fat, could burn slow and steady, almost like candles. Imagine building your entire survival around burning the leftovers of your last meal just to stay warm enough to make it to the next one. But fire alone wasn't enough. You needed shelter, and this is where things get wild. Picture standing on an open, freezing plain. No trees, no caves nearby, just snow, wind, and more snow. What do you build a shelter out of when there's no wood? The answer is almost too strange to believe. Bones. Not just any bones. Mammoth bones. Ancient humans in parts of Eastern Europe built entire homes using the skeletons of mammoths. Skulls stacked as a base. Long leg bones curved and layered like beams. Tusks used to frame doorways. Then the whole structure was covered in animal hides to block the wind. Think about that for a second. Imagine walking up to your house, and instead of bricks or wood, it's made from the actual skeleton of an animal, the size of a school bus. That wasn't decoration. That was engineering. That was the only material strong enough and available enough to keep a family alive through a killer winter. And here's the detail that makes it even crazier. Building one of these bone houses wasn't a solo job. It took serious teamwork, serious planning, and it meant a group of ancient humans had to successfully hunt or scavenge an enormous, dangerous animal first. Before you even had a house, you needed a small army of people working together against one of the biggest, most powerful creatures walking the earth. So already, staying alive during the Ice Age meant two impossible tasks. Build fire out of nothing. Build a house out of a monster. But shelter and fire were only step one. Because once you're not freezing, you still have another terrifying problem. Food. In a frozen world, plants don't really grow. No fruit trees, no vegetable gardens. Just snow, ice, and more snow as far as you can see. So where does food come from? This is where ancient humans made a decision that changed everything. If the land can't feed you, you go after the biggest, most fat and protein-packed animals you can find. And in the Ice Age, that meant one thing: giant animals. Woolly mammoths, giant bison, woolly rhinos, enormous, powerful, dangerous animals. Now stop and imagine this scene for a second. You have no rifle, no tranquilizer dart, no safety gear, just spears, sharpened rocks, and other humans standing beside you. And your job today is to somehow bring down an animal that weighs more than a school bus and could crush you in one step. How do you even attempt something like that? The answer is one of the smartest, most terrifying survival tricks in human history: the ambush trap. Ancient hunters didn't just chase these animals head-on. That would be suicide. Instead, they studied the land like a chessboard. They found cliffs, narrow valleys, or soft frozen ground, and used the environment itself as a weapon. Groups of hunters would work together to herd a massive animal toward a trap, sometimes driving it toward a cliff edge, sometimes toward a bog where its own weight would work against it. Picture an animal the size of a truck thundering across the snow, completely unaware that a group of small, clever humans has already planned its downfall 3 steps ahead. And once the animal went down, nothing was wasted. Nothing. The meat fed the group for days, sometimes weeks. The fat was used for fuel, for fire, even smeared on skin as protection against brutal wind. The hide became clothing and shelter covering. The bones became tools, weapons, needles, and yes, as we already learned, even houses. A single successful hunt wasn't just dinner. It was survival infrastructure for an entire group of people. But here's a twist that surprises almost everyone. Ancient humans weren't relying only on brute force. They were also incredibly clever with clothing, and honestly, way ahead of their time. Think about what you're wearing right now. Maybe a jacket from a store made in a factory, designed by engineers who tested exactly how warm it needs to be. Now imagine designing that same kind of technology from scratch, using only animal hide, bone needles, and sinew as thread in the middle of an ice age with your life, depending on getting it right. Ancient humans figured out how to create tightly stitched, layered clothing that trapped body heat far better than simply wrapping yourself in a loose fur. Sharpened bone needles allowed for tight, snug seams, almost like tailoring. This wasn't guesswork. This was survival science, tested the hardest way possible. If your clothing failed, you died. And it worked so well that some of these ancient clothing designs are strikingly similar to the layered, insulated clothing survival experts still recommend today. The same core idea, hide the skin, trap warm air, block the wind, is something researchers, campers, and outdoor experts still rely on right now. So think about that. Long before science labs, before fabric technology, before anyone had ever heard the word insulation, ancient humans in the freezing cold had already figured out the basic formula for staying warm that we still use today. But surviving the Ice Age wasn't just a physical battle. It was a mental one too. And this next part is where the story gets almost unbelievable. Imagine living through months of darkness, brutal cold, and constant danger. Isolation could be just as deadly as the weather. So ancient humans developed something incredibly powerful to survive: community. Small groups didn't just hunt together. They lived together, shared food together, and depended on each other completely. If one person got sick or injured, the group's survival could depend on how well everyone else stepped up. There was no room for isolation, no room for every person for themselves. working together wasn't a nice bonus. It was the actual difference between living and dying. And this cooperation shows up in some incredible evidence. Archaeologists have found signs that some ancient humans survived injuries and illnesses that should have been fatal in the wild, meaning someone or a whole group cared for them, fed them, and kept them alive during recovery. In a world this brutal, that kind of care wasn't just kindness. It was strategy. A functioning, connected group had a far better shot at making it through the Ice Age than any lone individual ever could. Now here is where the story takes its wildest turn yet. With all this cold, all this danger, and all this effort just to survive one single day, you'd think ancient humans had zero time for anything beyond hunting and freezing. But that's not true. Even in the middle of an ice age, humans made art. Deep inside caves, protected from the brutal weather outside, ancient humans painted animals on stone walls using natural pigments. Mammoths, bison, horses, detailed, careful, sometimes strikingly beautiful. Think about that. In the middle of a fight for survival this intense, humans still stopped to create something with meaning, something with beauty, something that had nothing to do with food or shelter at all. This tells us something incredible about human beings. Even in the most brutal conditions imaginable, when literally every day could be your last, humans didn't just want to survive. They wanted to express something, to leave a mark, to say, I was here. So let's zoom out and put it all together, because this is where it gets mind-blowing. To survive the Ice Age, ancient humans had to burn bones for warmth when wood ran out, build entire homes from mammoth skeletons when there was no wood at all, ambush and take down animals bigger than trucks using nothing but teamwork and clever traps, invent tightly stitched, layered clothing that still echoes survival gear used today, depend completely on each other, turning cooperation into a life or death survival tool. And somehow, in the middle of all of that, still find the time and the will to create art on cave walls. Every single one of us alive today exists because our ancestors faced a frozen, merciless world and refused to give up. They didn't have Google. They didn't have manuals. They didn't have anyone to call for help. They had each other and their own relentless creativity, and somehow that was enough. So the next time life feels overwhelming, the next time a problem feels impossible to solve, remember this. Your ancestors faced literal ice ages with nothing but bones, hides, fire, and each other. And they didn't just survive. They found ways to build, to hunt, to care for one another, and even to create beauty in the middle of it all. That's not just ancient history. That's proof of exactly what human beings are capable of when everything is stacked against them. And in a strange way, that same stubborn, creative, never give up spirit that got our ancestors through the Ice Age is still sitting inside every single one of us today.